Here we are, ready to make some picks on week 13 of the college football season. It's the last home game for Michigan. We're still here making selections. That's Lucas Reimink. I'm Dennis Fithian. Welcome in as we handicap games, and we take you around the state, Michigan, Michigan State, and the Lions. Plus, we each give 3 locks of the week. Lucas, how are you doing?
Doing well. Went 3-2 last week, so it's always good to be positive. Brought me to 34-31 on the season now, so only 3 games above 500. But anything above 500 is I'll gladly take that. So hopefully, keep stacking some positive weeks here as the season comes to a close shortly.
I'm with you. I almost had a perfect week going into Saturday night. I was looking to sweep the board. I had Illinois and the Lions. And then I doubled down on the Fighting Illini, which really helped me. And I had Georgia. The BYU pick is the only one that I missed. So that got me +3. So now I'm up +7 on the year. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm rolling. Now we get to the first game, and it is the home finale for Michigan. They take on Northwestern. Last I saw, 10 points. How do you see Michigan and Northwestern at the Big House?
Take the Wolverines here. Michigan hasn't had the greatest season, obviously, but Northwestern is also really not good. They're even worse. Northwestern's like bad. You get them at home after the bye week, so you're a little bit more rested up. Some of those injuries not as bad as they were, a couple weeks ago. The last time we saw them, Northwestern as a football team, they don't really have any weapons that scare you as a defense. I was pretty glued into the Ohio State Northwestern game last weekend, and I was not exactly impressed by anything Northwestern was doing. I do think it'll be a little bit of a lower scoring game, just the way that Northwestern plays. I got Michigan winning this 24-10, so I'll take them there to cover that at 10.
Well, it's almost like you and I are working off the same notes. I had Michigan 27-10. For all the reasons that you said, Northwestern looked all right, actually, in the early going against Ohio State, but then they just fell apart. They snapped a punt all the way down to the 1, and it was pretty much over after that. I think Michigan, they know that they have to have this game. I don't know if they've ever gone into a Northwestern game. It's been a long time where it was like, this is going to be season, wherever they're at, it's going to be kind of season defining, because if they lose this one, then I don't think anybody would think that they would be able to pull the upset against Ohio State, whatever you think of the rivalry. So this is the one that they have to have, and I feel like Michigan's going to win this game by 17 points. I did notice, looking at the Michigan notes, that Donovan Edwards needs 31 receiving yards to break the all-time record held by Anthony Thomas. I think it's 810 yards, and I was looking to see if I could get Donovan Edwards receiving yards. I didn't see it, but I did see, I think it was ESPN Bet had him for catches at +140, 1.5. So, I don't know. I feel like, if Michigan can get this game going, Michigan knows that Donovan Edwards needs 31 receiving yards. I think they could throw him the ball a couple times just as an aside, if you're looking for some kind of prop bet. How about Donovan Edwards over a catch and a half, or over whatever his receiving yards is going to be? He needs 31. So keep that one in mind. So you and I see the Michigan game the same way. Let's take you up to East Lansing, and that's where Michigan State is putting a big 14-point number out there with the Purdue Boilermakers. Spoilermakers in this one. How do you see the game up in East Lansing tomorrow?
Looks like we're going to be in agreement here on this one. I'm with MSU as well. Purdue is one of the worst Power 4 teams in the country, in my opinion. My favorite power rating set that I like to use the most has them 112th in the country, and this is a Big Ten team. 112th in the country is it's really impressive, actually, when you think about it. To be the Big Ten team to be ranked 112th in the country in a power rating set, it's pretty crazy. Although I don't think Michigan State's great by any means, obviously, 5-5 so far. Michigan beat them. I do think MSU is a much better team here, so I'll take them to cover that -14.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you again. I hate putting out 14 points, but you do look at Purdue and Michigan State being at home. Michigan State, if they can win their last 2 games, they'll be bowl eligible. So this is the one, and that game is tonight. I think I said tomorrow. That game is tonight. I'm on Michigan State as well, -14. So far, so good. Let's see what we do in the pros. The Lions have been so impressive. They're the best team in the NFL. Everyone's praising them. They're on the road taking on the Colts and Anthony Richardson. I'm going to give my pick first to see where you're at. It's real easy to take the Lions, but I just think the Colts keep it close. I feel like the Lions are going to win the game, but I'm going to take the 7 points. Are the Lions just going to take everybody and smash them to smithereens all the way to the Super Bowl? Probably not. They're going to have some close games. I think this one's going to be close, so I'll take the Colts and the 7 points.
First one we're disagreeing on. I'll take the Lions, but like you're talking about it, I'm really only taking it just because they've been on such a roll lately. Like, they're so hot. I'm just going to keep taking them to cover these spreads until they don't. Until they give me a reason not to trust them, I'm going to keep doing it. On the other side, the Colts, they've had quarterback issues this year. Anthony Richardson coming into the year was kind of supposed to be the guy. He struggled most of the year, got benched, and he's now back after Joe Flacco started a couple games. That didn't work out so well. I watched a little bit of their game last week. I thought he looked okay, maybe a little bit better than he did earlier in the season. But going up against this Lions defense and the Lions secondary in particular, they're really tough on opposing quarterbacks and wide receivers. They like to get in your face, play a lot of man coverage all day long. Means a lot of bodies around the ball. So I think Anthony Richards can throw a pick or two. And this one, I got the Lions winning 31-20. So I'll take them to cover the 7.
I can see it. I think all of the state of Michigan is going to be with you on that, be against me. So I understand your selection. All right, that gets us to our best bets or our locks of the week. We have 3 of them. Let's go to you for your first lock of the week.
Sure, I'll stick in the Big Ten here. Minnesota at home, catching 11.5 against Penn State. This is part of this. The reason I like this is like the schedule aspects of it. Penn State's played 5 straight games. It's week 13 now in the season, so they're probably a little bit banged up. In fact, I know they are. Minnesota at home here, coming off a bye week. I think Penn State also, like, just where looking at the playoff scenarios and everything, they're kind of just at the point where if they just keep winning, they'll probably be in the playoff at 1 loss. So I don't know if they really care about winning pretty anymore. They just need to keep winning. So to me, when I see that, like, kind of late in the season popping up, I just see a scenario where they're going to want to run the ball, play good defense, not do anything too crazy. I do think they're going to get the win here on the road, but I think it'll be within a touchdown. I have this at 27-20, so I'll take Minnesota plus 11.5 there at home.
I am also staying in the Big Ten, and I am going to the game that's going to be played in Piscataway between Rutgers and Illinois. Illinois is favored by 1. Rutgers started out the season kind of strong, and then they've kind of dipped down. They are at home, but I think Illinois is the better team here, and I only have to give up 1 point. I feel like pick who you think is going to win this game, and I really think Illinois is going to win it. I like their wide receivers, and their defense isn't half bad. Give me the Fighting Illini to roll the Scarlet Knights, although I only need them to win by 2 points. So I'm taking Illinois as my best bet number 1. Let's go back to you for best bet number 2.
I'm going to take the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 14.5 against Army. We do respect the troops here at the Maize and Blue Review, but I just think Notre Dame's going to be able to cover the spread here at home. We saw Notre Dame play at Service Academy a few weeks ago in Navy. They beat them by a score of 51-14. I do think Army is better than Navy, at least just my personal opinion. Obviously, we're going to see them play in a few weeks. But Notre Dame should still cruise to a 3-score win here. Caliber of athletes on the field is just going to be way different than anything Army has seen so far this year. I think Notre Dame gets it done. Don't even really think it's going to be a sweat, really, in the fourth quarter. I got them cruising to a 31-10 win here. So take Notre Dame Fighting Irish minus 14.5 at home.
I was watching the ESPN show where they have Bill Plaschke and Woody, the guy from Denver. Both of them, I'm saying this because both of them said they're picking Army outright, which, shocked me. I didn't see what the rest of the panel there said, but I'm inclined to go with you. Army also was able to handle Navy earlier in the year with the kind of offense that they were throwing at him. So I think that they'll be able to handle Army as well. But yeah, go Army and everything else. I'm actually rooting for Army and I'm rooting for Indiana tomorrow. I don't know if I've rooted for Army before. but I don't know if I've ever rooted for Indiana. I'm rooting for both of them tomorrow. And those games on either side of the Michigan game. All right, that gets me to my best bet number 2, and I am going to Coach Prime. And this game started out at -3, and it's down to 2.5, which was a little surprising to me. I thought this would be a bigger number. I know Kansas just took care of BYU. The Big 12 is crazy, but Colorado's got to win this game. They've got their focus now on actually getting to the college football playoff. To do so, they're going to have to win this game, and I think that they are going to be able to go to Kansas and win this game. Even if it's by a field goal, that'll be fine with me. I'll take Colorado -2.5, and that talent will prevail against the Jayhawks. All right, let's finish it up with your third bet of the week, your third lock of the week. Here he is, Lucas Reimink.
Yeah, for my third one, I got Ohio State 10.5, playing Indiana. In the power ratings world, I actually have this as a 10-point game on a neutral field, so you kind of factor in the home field advantage. That would get you to 13. From a matchup standpoint, though, I just kind of have a hard time seeing Indiana keep up with the Buckeyes in the passing game. I know Ohio State hasn't exactly thrown the ball all over the yard this year like they have the past few years, but Indiana's secondary, I think, has some holes that just haven't really been exposed yet. Maryland and Washington, just glancing through the schedule, they're probably the two best passing offenses that they've seen this year. And what they're going to see on Saturday lined up at wide receiver is just way different than what you saw playing those two offenses. And Will Howard's a good enough quarterback to be able to get them the ball if they can get open. Just don't think Indiana's going to have enough guys to cover Ohio State. Obviously, if you pay attention to the injuries and stuff, Ohio State lost to starting center, the transfer from Bama, who is having a really good year for him. And I just, that kind of plays into my reasoning here as well. I just think they're going to be throwing the ball more because they're not going to be able to run the ball as well as they were before. He's a really good run blocking interior offensive lineman, particularly for a center. Gets really good movement down there in the trenches. So that's part of the reasoning as well. Not that injuries are helping the Buckeyes be a better team in any scenario, but I do think in this matchup exclusively that it can be seen as a positive because I don't think they're going to need to run the ball that much because they have such an advantage going against Indiana's secondary. So I have them cruising, kind of opening it up in the second half, pulling away. I have them at 31-14. So I'll take the Buckeyes to cover that, the 10.5.
I agree with you, but I just didn't want to make that pick because I didn't want to talk in any positive way about Ohio State, and I wanted to root for Indiana. So if I'm picking Ohio State and I think they're going to win, it would be counterproductive for me while I'm watching the game to be rooting for Indiana, yet picking against myself. So I just stayed away from that game, but I completely understand where you're coming from. And I agree with you. That gets me to my best bet, number 3. And I'm going to a game that's going to be played in East Carolina. North Texas lost to Army last week, but North Texas can really throw the ball. And I was looking at the pass defense efficiency for East Carolina. It's in the 50s. North Texas has got a quarterback that maybe even Michigan would look at in the portal. I think North Texas is going to handle East Carolina on the road easily, and that's why I'm making North Texas my best bet, number 3. Speaking of quarterbacks, be remiss if I didn't ask you about Michigan landing Bryce Underwood, flipping him from LSU. How big of a surprise was that to you, Lucas?
It was big time for sure. I was very surprised. We had talked about it a couple times on this podcast, and I think we were both kind of in agreement that we'd have to see it to believe it. And just when it came across, I saw the tweet. It was from Schefter. I just happened to be checking Twitter like within a minute or two of him posting that tweet, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my goodness, is this fake? Like, I didn't even believe it at first. Like, that's how surprised I was. But yeah, it's big time. Huge recruiting win for Sherrone Moore, the Michigan Wolverines. Sounds like there could be more good news on the way as well. So even though this season hasn't been good for Michigan football, and it gives me confidence that in seasons in the future that Michigan's going to be getting back up track, back to the winning ways. So yeah, very positive, but also very shocked.
Yeah, no matter what happened, it showed that Michigan was now involved in not just the NIL game with transfers, but they were also looking at high school players. So that was going to be good news. And then to actually get him and you know that you have to surround him with outstanding talent on the outside and on the line and everywhere else. It's like this has kind of opened up the floodgates, and it seems like they've got the second the richest man in the world floating the NIL bill, which is the biggest shocker to me. So it's hey, who knew? I said, what happens if Michigan gets it, whether you liked it or not? All of a sudden, man, they have pulled up to the big boy table, and they are coming with both holsters loaded and ready to unload it, which is going to be exciting to see if that continues. But definitely exciting, gives everybody a lot to talk about. And for Michigan fans, they need a little jolt of energy, and they got it yesterday with Underwood.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be curious to see how they attack the transfer portal as well. If they're grabbing a bunch of guys there as well.
I'm right with you on that. All right. I'm interested to see how your picks do. I like all of them. Obviously, I'll be rooting for you. So good luck. And then we'll have the last game of the regular season next week. A lot of rivalry games. We'll see how we do there. Good luck it's week 13, but really week 11 for Michigan and everyone else. If you can put all that together, good luck out there to everyone. Good job.
Absolutely.
There he is. Lucas Reimink, Dennis Fithian.